Survival drill exposes Deathworlders, complete lack of fear. Its skies were painted in strange hues of violet and green, and storms raged with terrifying speed, sweeping across the jagged landscapes below. Yet humanity, ever curious and ever bold, had sent a small fleet to survey the planet. Leading this expedition was Commander Alara Soren, a woman whose reputation for calm leadership under impossible circumstances was almost legendary. As the human ships descended into the atmosphere, a mix of excitement and tension rippled through the crew. The Vanguard-class explorer ship, Dauntless, glided through the violet clouds, shaking slightly as lightning crackled nearby. Below, jagged cliffs and massive forests stretched farther than the eye could see. Some of the trees were taller than city skyscrapers, their leaves glowing faintly under the strange light of Vorath's 9 twin suns. Alara stood on the observation deck, her eyes sharp, scanning every detail. "Sensors indicate higher gravity than expected," she said calmly, turning to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Kai Munro. "And atmospheric readings show elevated toxins, though our suits can handle short exposure. Prepare for immediate drill once we land." Kai nodded, though tension marked his face. "Yes, Commander, but I've been reviewing the intelligence on the native species, the Deathworlders. It's unsettling. They show zero signs of fear, none. They survive every environmental hazard we've tested remotely. Even predators they encounter in simulations show no hesitation." Alara gave a faint smile. "That's why we are here, not to conquer, not to dominate, but to learn. Humanity thrives on challenge, Kai, and this planet is a challenge like none we've faced before." The landing was rough. The Dauntless touched down on a flat plateau surrounded by jagged cliffs, its hull groaning under the strain. Crew members gripped rails and handles, their suits hissing with recycled air. When the ramp lowered, a strange, metallic scent mixed with the ozone of the storm outside. Waiting beyond the ramp were the Deathworlders. They were humanoid but far taller than humans, with sinewy frames and skin that shimmered faintly in the sunlight. Their eyes, dark and penetrating, held no hint of fear. They stood casually, arms crossed or leaning against massive boulders as if the violent storm around them was nothing more than a gentle breeze. "Welcome, humans," said one of them, its voice deep but melodic. It moved forward, unfazed by a bolt of lightning that struck nearby. "I am Verk. We know why you come. You wish to survive here." Alara stepped forward, keeping her tone formal but confident. "We do, but survival is more than endurance. It's adaptation, learning, and cooperation. We hope to test ourselves alongside your people, to learn from your resilience." Verk tilted his head slightly. "Many before you have tried. Few lasted an hour, yet you speak with confidence. That is intriguing." The humans were led to a preparation zone, a large clearing shielded by natural rock formations. Here, the first stage of the survival drill would begin. Humans checked equipment, calibrating environmental suits and testing sensors, while Deathworlders appeared almost indifferent to their preparation. Some simply sat, watching humans scurry around as if the drill itself was entertainment. Alara studied them closely. "Notice their movements," she said quietly to Kai. "Notice how they observe the environment. They are not just fearless, they are strategic. Every motion, every glance, every reaction has a purpose. Humans have ingenuity, Deathworlders have instinct refined over millennia. We need both." As the drill began, humans were tasked with a simple exercise: traverse a toxic grove and retrieve a data capsule placed within. On the way, they would face naturally occurring hazards, ranging from acidic pools to fast-moving predator species adapted to Vorath's 9 lethal conditions. The humans moved cautiously, every step measured, every breath carefully drawn. Some wore gravity-assisted boots to handle uneven terrain, while others used environmental scanners to detect toxins and predator movement. But even with these tools, the hazards were intimidating. A sudden tremor shook the ground, and a massive vine snapped close enough to brush one cadet, leaving a deep scratch on his suit. The group froze. Meanwhile, a small band of Deathworlders strolled through the grove, stepping over acidic pools as if walking on solid ground. When a predator, a 6-legged, clawed creature with luminous eyes, lunged at them, they sidestepped, grabbed it by the limbs, and tossed it aside as if it were a harmless twig. Humans watched, a mix of awe and disbelief on their faces. One cadet whispered, How can they be so calm?" Alara answered quietly, because they do not see danger as humans do. But remember, fear isn't weakness, it's awareness, and we will use it to survive. Hours passed, and the humans struggled. Some fell into traps, others misjudged predator patterns, and a few nearly succumbed to toxic fumes. Yet every time they faced a challenge, humans adapted quickly, working together in ways the Deathworlders seemed to watch with mild curiosity. At one point, a storm broke over the grove. Torrential acid rain pelted the group. Humans scrambled to find shelter, using portable shields and coordination to protect weaker members. The Deathworlders, on the other hand, appeared entirely unaffected. They walked calmly through the rain, their skin shedding drops as if nothing touched them. Some humans muttered complaints, but Alara kept them focused. "Adapt, improvise, observe," she said firmly. "Do not waste energy being afraid. Learn from what you see." Kai watched as a human engineer, Talia Haynes, devised a clever solution to move a heavy data capsule across a shallow, acidic stream. She fashioned a temporary bridge from fallen tree trunks and flexible vine-like plants. It was risky, but effective. The Deathworlders paused to watch, their expressions unreadable before one finally nodded. "Interesting," Verk said. "You adapt. That is unusual for your species." By the end of the day, the humans had completed the first stage, retrieving the capsule with minor injuries and exhaustion. The Deathworlders, in contrast, had accomplished the task without apparent effort. Yet instead of mocking, they observed the humans carefully, as if noting traits of courage, ingenuity, and persistence, things they respected. That night, humans gathered in their temporary camp. Fires burned, though carefully shielded from the acidic rain, and the air buzzed with conversation. Cadets recounted their near misses, laughed nervously at their mistakes, and shared newfound admiration for their instructors and the alien beings. Alara moved among them, her presence calming. "Do not compare yourselves to them," she said. "Comparison is not survival. Learn from them, yes. But remember, humans have something even they do not, the power to think, to plan, to turn fear into action. That is why we are here. That is why we will survive." Kai approached, holding a data pad. "Commander, I've reviewed their physiology again. They really do seem immune to pain that would cripple humans, and yet they respect cleverness, adaptation. That is fascinating." Alara smiled faintly. "And that, Kai, is our advantage. They are fearless. We are thoughtful. That combination, intelligence guided by courage, is unstoppable. Tonight we rest. Tomorrow the drill becomes real. Tomorrow we push further than any human has before on a death world." The twin suns of Vorath 9 dipped below the horizon, casting the jagged landscape in shadow. Lightning forked across the sky, illuminating towering cliffs and the strange, glowing forests. In the distance, humans could see the silhouettes of Deathworlders, standing calmly, unafraid, watching them. For the first time, humans understood something profound. Survival was not about strength or speed. It was about heart, ingenuity, and the willingness to face fear with action. And on a planet that had killed countless species before, humanity was about to prove that fear could be a tool, and that even in the face of ultimate danger, they could endure, adapt, and thrive. The morning sun of Vorath 9 barely pierced the thick violet clouds. The air was heavy with the scent of ozone and the lingering tang of acid rain from the previous day's storm. Human cadets gathered at the edge of the clearing, their environmental suits damp and their expressions tense. The survival drill was about to begin in earnest, and this time there would be no safety nets. Commander Alara Soren walked among them, her boots crunching on the jagged stones. "Today," she said, her voice firm but calm, "you will face challenges unlike anything you have trained for. Remember what I said yesterday. Fear is not your enemy. It is your signal. It is what tells you to act, to think, to survive." Lieutenant Kai Munro adjusted the straps on his pack, checking the scanners once more. "Sensors indicate increased predator activity in the target zone," he warned. "We may encounter creatures capable of moving faster than any human can run. Stay alert, stay together." The humans nodded, steeling themselves. At the same time, the Deathworlders appeared, casually stretching and yawning as if preparing for a leisurely walk. Their leader, Verk, approached Alara. "Today," he said, "we will observe. You may survive or fail. Either way, we will learn from you." Alara gave a small smile. "We intend to survive," she said simply. The first challenge was deceptively simple: traverse a dense forest, reach a distant ridge, and collect a series of data beacons scattered throughout the terrain. On paper, the task looked straightforward. In reality, Vorath 9 had transformed the forest into a labyrinth of deadly traps. Trees with razor-sharp leaves, vines coated in corrosive sap, and burrowing predators that struck without warning made every step perilous. The humans moved cautiously, checking each footfall with scanners and environmental sensors. Talia Haynes, the engineer, was first to notice the subtle tremor in the forest floor, a warning sign of a predator approaching. She signaled the others and the team froze. Moments later, a creature resembling a hybrid between a panther and a centipede surged past them, its multiple legs allowing it to bound over obstacles with terrifying speed. The team held their breath as it disappeared into the shadows. "Good observation," Alara said quietly. "Fear is natural, but notice how you respond. That is the test, not the predator itself." Meanwhile, the Deathworlders moved without hesitation. They stepped over fallen logs, sidestepped acid-coated vines, and even approached predators, studying them with careful precision. One Deathworlder casually flicked a smaller predator aside like a pebble, watching it scuttle away unharmed. The humans could only stare, a mix of awe and disbelief on their faces. Kai whispered to Alara, "How can they do this without even blinking?" Alara's gaze remained steady. "Because they see danger differently. But that is not our path. Humans survive through planning, improvisation, and cooperation. That is our advantage. Remember it." Hours into the drill, the humans faced their first real crisis. A massive vine coated in corrosive sap fell across their path. It was impossible to go around without exposure, and cutting through it risked spilling acid onto themselves. Panic began to ripple through the team. "Talia, any ideas?" asked Kai. Talia quickly scanned the environment, her mind racing. "We can use these fallen branches as a bridge," she said, pointing to sturdy wood nearby. "But we need to work together. I'll stabilize it. Two of you carry the data packs across. Everyone else covers the path." Alara watched as the humans moved as one, carefully balancing their movements. The plan was risky, but their teamwork and ingenuity allowed them to cross safely. On the other side, several Deathworlders had stopped to observe, tilting their heads in silent approval. Verk stepped forward. "You use caution and cleverness. That is unusual. Most species panic. Most species fail." Alara nodded. "Caution is not weakness. It is preparation. That is how humans survive." The next challenge proved even more dangerous. As the group approached the ridge, a sudden tremor split the ground, creating a deep chasm across their path. The team froze. On the other side, the next beacon glimmered faintly. There was no bridge, no safe way across. Alara scanned the terrain. "We improvise," she said calmly. "Talia, can we use the vines?" Talia nodded. "Yes, if we anchor them properly, we can swing across, but it will require perfect timing." One by one, the humans swung across the chasm, their hearts pounding. The first misstep would send them plummeting into the toxic forest below. Several cadets faltered, but the others coached and encouraged them. By the end, the team was exhausted, but all had made it safely. The Deathworlders, who had moved effortlessly across the chasm using their natural agility, watched silently. They did not interfere. They were not impressed by the humans' bravery or the obvious risk. Instead, they observed the humans' ingenuity, their ability to think under pressure, their willingness to use fear as a guide rather than an obstacle. Kai exhaled heavily. "I don't know if I'm proud or terrified," he muttered. Alara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Both are fine. What matters is that we learned fear is not failure, action is success." As the day progressed, the humans encountered a predator unlike any they had seen before. Towering over them with armored scales and 4 massive limbs, it advanced with an almost mechanical precision. Cadets froze. Even the Deathworlders paused, studying the creature with keen interest. Alara acted quickly. "Formation, protect the weakest member, keep moving, observe its patterns." The humans moved as a unit, each action deliberate. Talia used a scanner to detect the creature's blind spots, while Kai coordinated the team's movement to avoid direct attacks. Slowly, methodically, they managed to lure the predator into a natural trap, a deep pit partially hidden by foliage. The creature fell, momentarily stunned, giving the humans time to escape. Verk approached afterward. "Your species is strange. You fear, yet you act. You hesitate, yet you succeed. That is remarkable." Alara allowed herself a faint smile. "We call it human ingenuity." "You might call it cleverness." By late afternoon, the team had collected most of the beacons, but the forest itself seemed to resist their progress. Trees shifted subtly, ground tremors increased, and the shadows lengthened unnaturally as the sun dipped behind the twin peaks. Humans began to tire. Their movements slowed, their breaths came in short gasps, and some cadets questioned whether they could finish the drill. Alara gathered them for a quick break. "We are close," she said. "Notice your fear, do not fight it, let it guide your actions. Trust each other, trust your training, and remember, this is not about being fearless, it is about using fear to survive." The cadets nodded, drawing strength from her words. One by one, they resumed the trek, more focused, more deliberate. Even when small predators skittered across their path, or acidic leaves brushed their suits, the humans moved with purpose. By sunset, they reached the final beacon, a glowing device half buried beneath strange crystalline formations. Humans worked together to extract it safely, securing it for transport back to camp. Exhausted but triumphant, they looked around to find the Deathworlders waiting, their expressions unreadable. Verk stepped forward. "You survived, not because you are fearless. Not because you are strong, but because you adapted. That is something few species can do. You have potential." Alara bowed her head slightly. "We are not finished yet. We still have much to learn, and we will learn it together." That night, as humans rested in their temporary shelters, the forest around them seemed quieter, almost reverent. Cadets whispered about their near misses, laughed nervously at their mistakes, and marveled at the Deathworlders' calm, composed demeanor. Kai joined Alara at the edge of camp, watching the dark outlines of Deathworlders moving through the twilight. "Do you think they will ever respect us?" he asked quietly. Alara's gaze was steady. "They already do. They respect those who survive, those who think, those who do not give in to fear. That is exactly what we are showing them, and tomorrow we push even further." In the distance, a faint growl echoed through the forest. Humans stiffened instinctively. Deathworlders barely reacted, continuing their quiet patrols. Alara took a deep breath. "Let them be fearless. Let them walk without hesitation. We will survive through intelligence, courage, and unity. That is the human way. That is what makes us strong." And under the violet skies of Vorath 9, the humans prepared for the next day's trials, knowing that the real test of survival was only just beginning. The morning on Vorath 9 was colder than the humans expected. The twin suns were low behind jagged cliffs, casting long shadows over the dense forest. A light, misty drizzle hung in the air, leaving the foliage slick and slippery. Commander Alara Soren stood at the edge of the human camp, scanning the horizon with her sensors. Today, the drill would push the team beyond anything they had experienced so far. "Today," Alara said firmly, addressing the cadets gathered before her, "we are entering the toxic canyon." Environmental readings show fluctuating oxygen levels, pockets of poisonous gas, and high predator activity. Many species would fail here immediately. But humans, we adapt. We survive, we learn, this is your test. Remember your training, trust your instincts, trust each other. Lieutenant Kai Munro nodded. "Scanners indicate the canyon is unstable, rock slides are likely, strong winds are frequent, proceed with caution." Alara gave a faint smile. "Caution is good, hesitation is not, move wisely but move forward, that is the key to survival." The humans began their trek into the canyon. The walls rose high on either side, jagged and uneven. Pools of stagnant, toxic water dotted the canyon floor, some with a faint green glow indicating high chemical content. Strange plants with spiny leaves and irritating spores swayed gently in the wind. Each step had to be measured. One wrong move could mean injury or worse. The Deathworlders, as always, moved effortlessly. They climbed over boulders with astonishing speed, stepping through the toxic pools as if walking on solid ground. Their eyes remained calm, showing no hint of fear. Humans could not help but stare. Kai whispered to Talia, "How can they survive so easily?" "It's impossible for a human to step in that water without severe burns." Talia shook her head. "It's not just the water, look at their movements. Every step they take avoids danger instinctively. They are tuned to this world." Alara overheard them. "And we are tuned to something else. Thought, innovation, teamwork, that is our edge. Do not envy them. Learn from them, yes, but remember, our greatest strength is human ingenuity under pressure." The first real test came when the canyon walls began to collapse. A tremor shook the ground violently, sending rocks crashing down. Humans froze for a moment, hearts pounding. The Deathworlders, unflinching, leapt effortlessly to safer positions. Ilara shouted, "Move, look for stable ground, stay together." The humans worked as one. Talia and a small group stabilized a large fallen boulder with makeshift braces, allowing the others to pass safely. Kai guided cadets across narrow ledges, using his scanner to identify weak spots in the rock. Every step required thought and precision. A cadet named Jax Rivera slipped as he crossed a slick ledge. Instinctively, he grabbed at a nearby vine, but it tore under his weight. He dangled above a poisonous pool, fear flooding his mind. A Deathworlder passed calmly by, observing without offering help. Jax froze. But then he remembered Ilara's words, "Fear is a signal, not a cage." He assessed the situation, calculated his grip, and swung safely to solid ground. The group let out a collective sigh of relief. Ilara placed a hand on his shoulder. "That is human ingenuity, Jax. You did not panic, you thought, you survived." The canyon continued to challenge them. Toxic gas pockets hissed unexpectedly from fissures in the rock, forcing the team to improvise air filters from damaged suit components. Slippery ledges and sudden drops demanded careful coordination. Humans began to tire, their movements slower, their breaths ragged. Yet even under pressure, they adapted. When a narrow path collapsed underfoot, Talia fashioned a temporary bridge from fallen branches and vine-like plants, just as she had on the first day. Kai coordinated the crossing, signaling cadets in precise intervals to avoid overloading the fragile structure. Every human action relied on planning, observation, and courage guided by fear. The Deathworlders watched silently, occasionally making adjustments of their own but mostly observing the humans' methods. They did not intervene, but their eyes showed growing respect. Verk approached Ilara during a brief pause. "Your species is remarkable. You hesitate, yet you act. You fear, yet you survive. That is unusual. Few species combine thought with courage so effectively." Ilara nodded. "We call it human ingenuity. Fear is a tool, not a weakness." As the group pressed deeper into the canyon, the dangers grew more severe. A massive predator, resembling a cross between a lizard and a feline, blocked their path. Its scales reflected the dim light, and its eyes glowed with intelligence. The cadets froze in instinctive fear. Ilara immediately took command. "Observe its movement. Do not rush. Jax, Talia, flank it from the left. Kai, distract it from the right. Others, be ready to support." Humans moved carefully, analyzing the creature's behavior. They noted its patterns, slow initial movements, then bursts of speed. By coordinating and timing their actions precisely, they managed to guide it into a narrow crevice where it could not reach them. The Deathworlders watched silently, their expression unreadable. Yet for the first time, they did not seem entirely indifferent. A subtle nod from Verk suggested approval of the human strategy and teamwork. Kai exhaled heavily. "I can't believe we did that. That predator was faster than anything we've trained for." Ilara smiled. "Speed is meaningless without thought. Strategy, coordination, adaptation, these are the tools that make humans powerful." Hours passed, and exhaustion began to take its toll. Cadets stumbled over uneven ground, suits were damaged by toxic pools, and minor injuries accumulated. Yet humans continued. They improvised constantly, repairing equipment, creating safe paths, and using the terrain to their advantage. At one point, a sudden landslide blocked their path, forcing the team to climb a near-vertical rock face. Most humans struggled, gripping slippery rocks and vines with aching hands. One cadet, Myra-san, began to panic. Ilara rushed to her side. "Focus, Myra, one step at a time. Feel the fear and let it guide your hands. You are stronger than you think." Myra nodded, taking a deep breath. She moved slowly, deliberately, until she reached the top, where the others helped her across. The Deathworlders, who had moved up effortlessly, watched with something akin to admiration. Verk approached. "Your species is unpredictable. You falter yet recover. You fear yet act. This combination is dangerous. It is admirable." Ilara replied, "It is human. Fear is not the absence of strength. It is the presence of awareness. That is how we endure. That is how we survive." As evening approached, the humans reached a plateau overlooking the canyon floor. From this vantage point, the enormity of the terrain became clear. Jagged cliffs, toxic pools, and shifting rock formations stretched in every direction. The cadets looked exhausted, but a sense of pride shone in their eyes. Ilara surveyed them. "You have done well today. You faced real danger, adapted under pressure, and used your fear as a guide. That is the essence of survival." The Deathworlders respect strength, yes, but they respect adaptation and ingenuity even more. Verk stepped forward. Today you have survived where most would perish, not because you are fearless, but because you act despite fear. That is remarkable. You have potential, humans. True potential. The humans nodded, proud but aware that the drill was far from over. Exhaustion weighed on them, but it was a productive exhaustion, the kind born from triumph and learning. That night the camp was quiet. Fires burned cautiously, shields protecting against acid drizzle. Cadets whispered about the predators they had outsmarted, the hazards they had navigated, and the lessons they had learned. Kai spoke softly to Alara. "Commander, they are fearless, yes, but they watch us." "I think they are learning from us, too," Alara nodded. "And they should. Fear alone is not enough to survive. It is action, innovation, and courage that define strength. Humans may not be the strongest in raw power, but we are formidable in ways no species has expected. That is our advantage. That is our HFY moment." From the edge of the camp, the Deathworlders moved silently among the shadows, observing, learning, and perhaps even questioning their own methods. For the first time, humans had earned genuine acknowledgement from a species thought untouchable on this Deathworld. As the twin suns set completely behind the cliffs, the canyon seemed to quiet, as if holding its breath. Humans settled into their shelters, their bodies aching, their minds alert. They had faced danger, adapted, and survived, and they knew that tomorrow the challenges would grow even more severe. Yet for the first time they felt confident. Fear had guided them, yes, but it had not stopped them. Ingenuity, teamwork, and courage had carried them through. And on a planet that had killed countless species before, humanity was proving that it could endure, adapt, and thrive where others had failed. Commander Alara Soren looked out across the canyon, a faint smile on her face. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "we test our limits even further, and when we do, we will show the Deathworlders that humans are not just survivors. We are thinkers, innovators, and fighters. We are a force they cannot ignore." The morning mist clung to Vorath 9 jagged cliffs like a shroud. The twin suns struggled to pierce the thick, violet-hued clouds, casting long shadows over the canyon floor. Commander Alara Soren stood at the edge of the human camp, her gaze fixed on the ominous expanse before them. Today marked the final stage of the survival drill, the Gauntlet of Shadows. It was not merely a test of courage. It was a test of endurance, intellect, and adaptation under pressure. Every hazard Vorath 9 could throw at them would be present: predators, toxic gases, unstable terrain, and sudden storms. For most species, it would be impossible to survive. For humans, it was a chance to prove their unique strength, ingenuity in the face of fear. Alara addressed the cadets with her usual calm authority. "Today, you are entering the gauntlet. It is designed to push you beyond your limits. You will encounter danger at every step. You may feel fear, exhaustion, and doubt. That is natural, but remember this: humans survive not by being fearless, but by acting despite fear. Trust yourselves, trust each other, and above all, think before you act." Lieutenant Kai Munro stepped forward. "Sensors indicate multiple predator species in the gauntlet. Some are capable of flight, others are ambush hunters. Terrain is unpredictable. All teams should remain within visual range of one another and maintain constant communication." Verk and the Deathworlders arrived, standing tall and still, as if the mountains themselves bowed to their presence. "This is the true test," Verk said. "Many species have tried, few survive. Humans, I am curious to see if you will endure." Alara nodded. "We intend to finish. And we intend to learn and adapt." The humans entered the gauntlet carefully, scanning the terrain. Towering, jagged cliffs loomed on either side, their shadows forming dark corridors. Pools of acidic water glimmered with a faint green light, and the wind carried the distant cries of predators. Every step was measured. At first, the gauntlet appeared deceptively calm. Small predators skittered across the path, and the terrain seemed navigable. But the moment the team advanced further, the canyon seemed to come alive. Rocks shifted underfoot, releasing clouds of toxic dust. Suddenly, a towering predator emerged, its limbs moving with terrifying speed. The humans froze, instincts screaming. But Alara's voice cut through the panic. "Formation, stay together, observe its patterns." The team acted with remarkable coordination. Talia Haynes quickly scanned the creature with her sensors, identifying blind spots. Jax Rivera coordinated the team's movements, signaling safe paths through the hazardous terrain. Cadets moved precisely, avoiding the predator while keeping watch on one another. A Deathworlder moved effortlessly nearby, leaping across rocks and bypassing danger without a second thought. Humans watched with awe, but Alara reminded them quietly, "Fear is natural. Observe, adapt, act, that is your strength." Hours into the gauntlet, the terrain worsened. A sudden rockslide blocked the main path, forcing the team to find an alternate route along a narrow ledge overlooking a deep chasm. The wind picked up, battering them with debris. Cadets stumbled, some nearly losing their balance. Myra Sun gritted her teeth. "I can't do this." "I'm too afraid," she shouted, clinging to the rock. Alara approached her calmly. "Myra, fear is not failure. It is a signal. Use it. Focus on your footing, one step at a time. You are stronger than you think." Myra inhaled deeply, steadying herself. Slowly, deliberately, she moved across the ledge, guided by the team's support. When she reached the far side, her eyes shone with relief and pride. Kai muttered under his breath, "They may be fearless, but we survive with thought and courage combined." Alara nodded. "Exactly. That is the essence of humanity. That is our HFY moment." As the team pressed on, another challenge emerged. A dense fog of poisonous spores filled a section of the canyon. Visibility dropped to almost zero, and the air burned their lungs. Humans coughed and struggled, their suits filtering some of the toxins, but not all. Talia quickly improvised. "We can use these long leaves to cover our faces and guide each other by touch. Stay close." The humans moved slowly, hands brushing against the walls of the canyon to maintain direction. Every step was deliberate, every breath calculated. Fear rose with every inhale, but they used it to focus, not freeze. From above, Deathworlders observed silently. They made their way through the spores without hesitation, yet it was clear they were noting the humans' strategies. Every improvised tool, every coordinated movement, every adaptation under pressure was being registered in their keen minds. Verk finally spoke. "You adapt even under extreme conditions. That is rare. Few species survive so effectively when faced with constant threat." Alara's lips curved slightly. "That is because humans do not rely on strength alone. We use intelligence, we use courage, we use each other." Midway through the gauntlet, a sudden storm swept across the canyon. Torrential rain mixed with acidic particles lashed at the humans, reducing visibility and making footing treacherous. Rocks became slick, water levels rose unexpectedly, and predators moved with renewed aggression. The humans huddled together, creating makeshift barriers with branches and rocks to shield themselves. Kai guided cadets through the worst sections, signaling safe paths and helping those who slipped. Talia and Myra reinforced damaged gear and created temporary shelters from fallen debris. Jax Rivera encountered a massive predator blocking the only path forward. His heart raced, but he remembered Alara's words. Fear is a tool. Observing its movements carefully, he noticed a pattern in its attack. Timing his moves precisely, he led the predator into a narrow side canyon where it could not reach them, allowing the team to continue safely. The Deathworlders watched, their dark eyes reflecting a mixture of curiosity and respect. For the first time, it seemed the humans were not just surviving, they were outsmarting the challenges of the Deathworld. Verk approached Alara after the storm. "Your species surprises me. You are not fearless, you are clever. You use what others fear as a tool. That is powerful, that is rare." Alara nodded. "Fear guides action, courage ensures action is taken, intelligence turns it into survival, that is humanity." As evening fell, the humans approached the final section of the gauntlet. A massive, multi-tiered ruin filled with unstable walkways, toxic pools, and predators hidden in shadows. The last beacon awaited at the top, its faint glow visible even through the heavy storm clouds. Cadets were exhausted. Their bodies ached, their suits were damaged, and their minds teetered on the edge of fatigue. But Alara's presence inspired calm and determination. "One step at a time," she said. "Observe, adapt, act. Fear is a signal, not a stop sign. Move forward." Step by step, the humans ascended the ruin. They used every skill learned over the past days: coordination, improvisation, and careful observation. Every hazard was analyzed before crossing. Every predator was studied and avoided or carefully outmaneuvered. The Deathworlders moved alongside them, as always seemingly unaffected, yet their eyes followed every human action. It was clear that they were learning from the humans, as much as humans had been learning from them. Finally, Jax reached the top, securing the final beacon. Exhaustion was written on every face, yet triumph shone brighter. Humans had completed the gauntlet, not because they were fearless, not because they were the strongest, but because they adapted, coordinated, and acted under pressure. Verk approached, bowing slightly. You have done the impossible. Many species fail here. You survived and thrived. You are clever, courageous, and adaptable. That is a combination few species possess. Alara stepped forward. Humans survive not by avoiding fear, but by using it. We think, we plan, and we act. That is our strength. That is what makes humanity powerful. The Deathworlders murmured among themselves. For the first time, it was clear they respected humans as equals, perhaps even as a species capable of matching their own legendary resilience. Kai looked at Alara, awe in his eyes. We did it. Against everything Vorath 9 threw at us, we survived. Alara smiled faintly. Not just survived, Kai, we proved what humans can do. Fear does not control us. Action does, ingenuity does, unity does. That is why we are formidable, even on a Deathworld. As night fell, the humans and Deathworlders gathered briefly to rest. Fires burned carefully, protective shields keeping corrosive rain at bay. Cadets whispered about near misses, triumphs, and lessons learned. For the first time, humans felt true respect from a species that had once seemed untouchable. Alara looked toward the stars. Tomorrow we rest, tomorrow we reflect, but tonight we know we have shown something remarkable. Humans are not just survivors. We are thinkers, problem solvers, and courageous actors. That is what makes us unstoppable. The twin suns dipped completely below the horizon, leaving the canyon bathed in violet darkness. Humans slept uneasily but confidently. They had faced the ultimate challenge and had proven their worth not through fearlessness, but through cleverness, courage, and unity. And somewhere in the shadows, the Deathworlders watched, silently acknowledging that humans were a species worthy of respect, and possibly a species they could learn from. The morning air on Vorath 9 was surprisingly calm. The twin suns, still low on the horizon, cast a soft violet glow across the jagged cliffs and crystalline forests. Commander Alara Soren stood at the edge of the plateau where the humans had completed the gauntlet of shadows. Today marked the final day of the survival drill, and it would be a day of reflection, understanding, and recognition. The humans had survived. They had faced every predator, every environmental hazard, every deadly twist of the Deathworld, and they had not only endured, they had adapted. Every cadet had learned to use fear as a guide rather than a weakness, to think and act even when the odds seemed impossible. Alara looked over her team. Faces were tired, suits were damaged, but their eyes shone with determination. You have accomplished something few species ever do, she said softly. You have survived where others would perish. You have learned, adapted, and proven that human ingenuity, courage, and cooperation are stronger than raw strength alone. Kai Munro nodded beside her. It's astonishing. Even the Deathworlders seem to respect us now. After observing everything we've done, I think they see humans as more than just fragile creatures. They see a species that can think, innovate, and act under extreme pressure. Alara smiled. Yes, that is what makes humans remarkable. Not fearless, not invincible, but clever, determined, and united. That is our advantage. That is HFY. The Deathworlders arrived at the plateau quietly, their tall figures moving with the same calm that had defined them throughout the drills. Verk, their leader, stepped forward. His dark eyes swept over the human team. You have completed what no other species has, he said. Not through strength, not through fearlessness, but through ingenuity, courage, and cooperation. You have learned the environment. You have faced every danger with thought and action. That is rare. That is worthy of respect. The human stood straighter, absorbing the gravity of his words. Respect from a species that had once seemed untouchable was more valuable than any medal or recognition. Alara nodded toward Verk. We came to learn from your people, and we have learned, but perhaps you have also learned from us. Fear is not weakness, it is a signal. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is action in spite of it. Intelligence turns both into survival. Verk's lips curved slightly, the first hint of a smile. Perhaps you are right. Humans are unpredictable but effective. That combination is dangerous. That is admirable. The human team gathered around a large crystalline formation nearby, a natural amphitheater of sorts. Here, Alara allowed a moment of reflection. Humans have survived where others failed, she said, her voice echoing softly across the canyon. We have faced predators faster and stronger than ourselves. We have endured storms and toxic terrain that would cripple most species. We have faltered, we have feared, but we have always acted. And in doing so, we have proven something important. Survival is not about being fearless. Survival is about thinking, adapting, and persevering. Cadets nodded, some smiling tiredly, others quietly proud. Even those who had doubted themselves on the cliffs and in the toxic fog could feel a deep sense of achievement. Talia Haynes, who had spent much of the gauntlet improvising and leading smaller groups, spoke up. I never thought I could do all of this. I was terrified at times. But I realized the fear made me focus. It made me think faster, act smarter. Without it, I wouldn't have survived. Alara placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Exactly, Talia. Fear is a tool. Courage is the engine. Ingenuity is the path forward. That is what makes humans extraordinary. The Deathworlders began to demonstrate something unusual. They moved closer to the humans, showing them certain survival tactics unique to their species, not as instructors, but as peers sharing knowledge. Verk approached Jax Rivera, who had outmaneuvered the massive predator during the storm. Your timing was precise. Your actions were deliberate. That is remarkable. Here, try this approach we use in similar terrain. He demonstrated a subtle shift in foot placement and balance that allowed movement over unstable ground without using brute strength. Jax followed the guidance carefully. To his surprise, he crossed the treacherous slope more smoothly than before. He glanced back at his teammates, who watched in admiration. Even the Deathworlders seemed impressed by his quick learning. Alara observed quietly. This exchange, silent and unspoken in many ways, symbolized the mutual respect between humans and Deathworlders. The survival drill had started as a test, but it had evolved into a shared learning experience, a demonstration of intelligence, courage, and adaptability. By midday, the team began their return journey to the base camp, carrying supplies, tools, and data collected during the gauntlet. The terrain was still dangerous, but humans moved with confidence, their previous fears replaced by understanding. They were no longer reacting to danger blindly. They were anticipating, adapting, and using strategy. Kai Munro glanced back at the canyon floor, now quiet in the afternoon sun. It's strange, he said softly. For days, I thought the Deathworlders were untouchable. But seeing how we adapted, I think they're genuinely impressed. They are fearless, yes, but we are clever, and cleverness wins where strength alone does not. Alara nodded. Cleverness guided by courage and teamwork, that is human survival, that is what separates us. Not speed, not physical power, but ingenuity and resilience, that is why humans endure. As they reached the base camp, the Deathworlders gathered in a ceremonial formation. Though they had always been calm and composed, there was a subtle acknowledgement in their posture, a recognition that humans were not merely participants, but worthy survivors. Verk spoke to the group one final time. Humans, today you have proven yourselves. You have faced every danger Vorath 9 could present. You have faltered, you have feared, and yet you have acted with intelligence and courage. That is rare. That is commendable. You have earned our respect. The humans stood together, exhausted but proud. There were no trophies or medals, no formal accolades, just the quiet acknowledgement from a species that few had ever matched. And in that recognition, there was validation of every risk, every challenge, every moment of fear overcome. Alara addressed her team. Remember this day. Remember the lessons of Vorath 9. Fear is not the enemy. Courage is not absence of fear. Intelligence is the greatest weapon. And together, these qualities make humanity formidable on any planet against any threat. Later, as the twin suns began to set completely behind the jagged cliffs, the humans and Deathworlders shared a moment of quiet companionship. They exchanged observations, minor survival techniques, and insights about the world around them. Talia laughed softly as a Deathworlder demonstrated a method of detecting predator movement through subtle vibrations in the ground. That's amazing, she said. But it's funny, your technique is precise, but we humans have our own style. We think, we plan, we adapt. That's our strength. Verk inclined his head. Perhaps that is true. Your species is strange. You fear, yet you act. You hesitate, yet succeed. That combination, it is dangerous and admirable. That is something we respect. Alara nodded, watching the sun's last rays glint off the canyon walls. And that is what makes humans strong. Not raw power, not fearlessness, but adaptation, ingenuity, and courage in the face of fear. That is humanity. As night fell, the humans prepared to leave Vorath 9. The drills were complete, the gauntlet survived, and the Deathworlders had formally acknowledged their accomplishments. For the first time in recorded history, humans had earned the respect of a species considered untouchable on a Deathworld. Alara stood on the edge of the plateau one last time, taking in the jagged landscape. "We came here to learn," she said softly. "We came to survive. But we leave having proven something greater, that humans are capable of facing impossible odds, adapting under pressure, and thriving where others fail. That is our strength. That is HFY." Kai joined her, gazing out at the purple-hued forests and crystalline rocks. "It's humbling," he said, "to think fearless species could respect us, and to know we survived because of thought, courage, and teamwork." Alara smiled faintly. "Humans endure, humans adapt, humans prevail. That is what makes us remarkable. That is what makes humanity unstoppable." As the human fleet lifted off from Vorath 9, the planet receding beneath them, the cadets felt a mixture of relief, pride, and exhilaration. They had faced a death world and lived. They had learned to turn fear into a tool, courage into action, and intelligence into survival. The Deathworlders watched from the plateau below, silent but respectful. For the first time, humans and Deathworlders shared mutual admiration. Both species had learned, both had adapted, and both had proven that survival on Vorath 9 required more than strength. It required courage guided by intelligence. And humanity left the Deathworld stronger, smarter, and more confident than ever before. They had faced the ultimate test, overcome the impossible, and earned their place among the stars as a species capable of surviving anything, thriving anywhere, and inspiring awe in those who thought them fragile. Commander Alara Soren closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the lessons learned and the pride of her team. "We are humans," she whispered. "We endure, we survive, and we always will." The fleet disappeared into the violet horizon, leaving Vorath 9 behind, but the lessons of the Deathworld would remain forever etched in the minds and hearts of humanity.